right, we are good to start.
Okay. Hello and welcome everyone to the EDC document review meeting. Today it's September 15th, and today we will be covering chapters 2 and 3 of the EDC, which chapter 2 comprises the agriculture and aquaculture overview, and chapter 3 is the tourism and hospitality situational analysis. With us, we have Dale Moore and Phil Dorsey and Brooke Turner as part of the document review committee, and we also have Barbara Sapato, who will be reviewing one of the two documents along with us.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I'm getting an echo. Is that from the Chesapeake room, Destiny?
I don't hear an echo, so I'm not sure.
Turn your volume down on your computer.
Okay.
Are other people hearing an echo?
I've got an echo too. It sounds like it's coming from the participant side, because we're not hearing it on Destiny's side.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
My microphone's off.
Yeah, make sure all your mics are off.
All right, so the first part of the session has been cut into a little bit as we were waiting for a quorum. But for the next 22 minutes, the document review committee will be reviewing, any questions that you brought forward today. And then from 5 to 5:30, we'll have Donna here to present a few things and share a few updates. And then she'll be available for questions. And then Barbara will be available between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. We'll provide a few updates and be available for that too. But these 20 minutes right now are for the document review team to get together and compile those questions that you have from your readings. And Elizabeth Gerald's not on, but just as a reminder, the co-chair should be have the notes for the committee from the meeting.
Okay.
So any question, in addition, any questions we might not get to, just make sure you jot them down, and we'll, follow up after the meeting if we don't get to everyone's questions. All right. You guys can take it away.
Sounds good. So Dale, Phil, Brooke, what remarks did you have on the agriculture and aquaculture chapter?
I just had just one thing. We have a lot of low-lying areas, 400 miles of shoreline, and I just wonder if we're even thinking about climate change and all that kind of stuff. It's not as far away as people might think, and it could have a dramatic impact on the region. It might actually even help us with the aquaculture piece of it all, which is kind of interesting to think about. Aquaculture seems like an underdeveloped area to me, but I don't have any data on that. The other comment was that I was looking at the current, and I know these don't have the most recent census information, but we're projecting 23,000 more people from 2020 to 2030. I don't know what 2040 and 50 look like, but that trend is pretty significant. And so I'm a little concerned about how that all gets handled. As we're thinking through how all this ought to fit together. There was I'll call it dollar return on per acre issue. I really don't understand why that's so different between typical average Maryland farm, and maybe it's just a size, I don't know, and a St. Mary's County farm. And I just was wondering about I know that we had the tobacco buyout, got that. It's not clear to me kind of what the current mix is of agriculture, why it is what it is, and does it make any sense to be different? And there are new crops and things like that might be, I guess, better return on the acreage and things like that would address that.
And that was actually one of the things that that jumped out at me was granted, tobacco was an extremely profitable crop, but the profitability of the average farmer seems to have dropped drastically, almost to the point that it isn't really sustainable to still own a farm.
Right. And just a question, I just think through, why do we have what we have? What should we have? Are there other crops that would be higher return, and not scavenge the soil, obviously, but, if they ever legalized hemp, that would be a phenomenal acreage. From a fabric and rope and all the different things, hemp can be 100 different things. So that's kind of a data point, just came up in my mind. The land use, I guess I would think, given all the problems, the cost of housing, things like that we would have more medium and high density housing at lower cost for people. I mean, that seems to be the real, we're having all these single family homes taking up all this space, but people can't afford them. So there's a real affordability issue. And so, I know over in Wildwood, they have all those new apartments and things like that, but it seems like if we're going to grow by 23,000 or whatever the number is just within the next 10 years, that we ought to be really thinking about how to optimize the space and make it affordable. As Barbara Ives brought up before, we get interns on the base and they can't afford to buy a place or even the rent. They're almost at the same price as my son was getting an apartment in Jersey City, which is kind of crazy. I think, and then how industrial fits in with all this was just a question to me. Anyway, that's probably enough for now.
Dale, can you repeat the last thing you said?
Yeah.
It had to do with the
industrial portion?
Medium and high density housing, Destiny.
No, I heard that portion, just the last thing you said. You said something about industrial. It's just not clear to me how industrial fits in, right? How does the region want to do the industrial thing? We have a lot of professional services. We're building the innovation thing, but industrial, which is producing things, typically has pretty good jobs that go with it. There's a renaissance going on right now in manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, 3D automated, additive manufacturing, all that stuff. And so it's actually a pretty good time to get in that space. And it provides a lot of good, high quality jobs. Yeah.
Bill,
So,
what comments do you have?
just a few. I'm on the Agricultural Seafood Committee, Forestry, and Phil Langley's the only real person that we have there now because Bobby Lumpkins just left. And so that industry is of particular importance with regard to the water quality, and we've had a lot of battles over the years on oyster cages and things of that nature. And I'd like to make sure that we address those issues along the way. Number two, as far as agricultural preservation in this county, I think we do a tremendous job, both with our Rural Legacy Program and with MALF program. And that's under the auspices of Chris's department with Donna, and I know she's coming on a little bit. They just do an outstanding job. The folks with Rural Legacy, both Mattaponi and Huntersville, do a tremendous job. And I think that this board should definitely bring themselves up to speed on what they do, how they do it, how active they are. And also, they have a very active program with the Navy where they use REPI funds in order to bolster that support. And that's something that folks, certainly any document is important. You talk about high density residential. See, the problem we have today is that TDRs, the market for TDRs is just null and void. And so the code, it was utilized to increase your density in a project with the support of buying TDRs. But the cost of these, I wish I knew the exact figure today. I don't know it, but it's important to establish somewhere in this document I read somewhere that they discuss TDRs, and there definitely needs to be some type of price support system for TDRs in order it to be effective to people to give that up. You just talked about industrial zoning and OBP. I hadn't read the industrial zoning ordinance with the latest revisions until, I don't know, a couple months ago. But there are a multiplicity of uses that have been added to both industrial zones and OBP zones over the last markup. And I was really surprised at how strong of an effort it was to increase the uses in those areas. And I think we should definitely support that. I think we need to, stay on top of that. And let me see. I think that's it.
Teresa, was there any feedback that you had on it?
As I read through, I was wondering, like, the status of the recommendations that were made when the last the SEDS was made. The digital technology, expanding agricultural projects, and promoting young farmers. There are 6 total. Promotion of wine tourism, I'm sure that's happened. Promoting horticulture and heritage tourism, and then the seafood and agricultural tourism.
So Teresa, you'll get
I
an
think Donna's
update
gonna
on some
speak.
of that when Donna speaks in a few minutes.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Teresa, those are all good points because Jamie Raley helped to craft those with the Farm Bureau with Steve Reeves. And they actually had some drones doing calculations for soil analysis. I know they had that done during our last tenor that we had University of Maryland.
Really?
But those two, those two,
Wow.
they're really on the cutting edge of that stuff.
That seems like a extremely viable possibility for things like the Innovation District to combine the two, UAS and drone technology and farming. It's essentially a microcosm of what we're encouraging St. Mary's County to be. I think that would be a great opportunity to take advantage of.
Yeah, I agree.
It falls under the idea of smart farming, right?
Right.
And
I would say aquaculture as well. And I was telling the example in the New Initiatives Committee, I was up at Prince Edward Island in Canada, and boy, did they have the aquaculture thing down to a science. Really amazing. I don't know how we're doing it here. I just don't know. But, 1 to 10, where are we relative to what we could be?
one thing I did notice was the promoting young farmers. I knew about the Young Farmer program, but I had no idea that it was actually directly connected to the University of Maryland system, and that seems like it would be something that would be within the easy reach of adding on to the curriculum at the formerly higher ed center.
Was there anything on, as an emphasis area, organic farming?
There was not, no, but I think that that's something that we could definitely look at adding into the new update, considering the current popularity of it. As long as there's heirloom tomatoes included in it.
No, I just think it speaks well to the region to be sustainable and green, organic. I mean, it's a reputational thing as well as a real
Absolutely.
thing. And I think a lot of the population would really appreciate locally.
Okay.
I think Gerald.
Are we supposed to comment on chapter 3 as well now, or wait until later?
No, this is for both.
That's true. And to stay on topic, we should probably transition to the tourism. So, since Gerald has not had a say yet in this, Gerald, what feedback did you have on the tourism and hospitality situational analysis / master plan? Gerald? Okay, it looks like he is having audio difficulties. Bill, Dale, Teresa, what feedback did you have?
Give me a second. Just go ahead. Someone else go.
Well, I wanted to add that under Chris's department, and they'll fill you in, really, you should take special interest in this North Farmers Market that's getting ready to come to town in the latter part of October. Chris could fill you in on the details of when they're having their grand opening. But it's really gonna take all that congestion up at the Charlotte Hall Library and allow for different vendors to come in there and do a great job. And they're having sort of like a vendor competition right now to see who goes in there, and it's really going to loosen things up, and it's still off the trail, so all the Amish participants will be able to be there. And they do have organic fruits and vegetables, which, of course, I'm sure, I'm not as familiar with the other parts of the county, the farmers markets, but I know they'll be having them up there. And so you should all make sure you come to the grand opening. Chris could fill you in on all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably the third week of November, but we'll make sure everybody gets invited.
Awesome.
It's coming up quick. It is very exciting.
I have some comments on the tourism piece.
Okay.
As I said last meeting, I noticed that marinas and campgrounds are not part of the program that's outlined here in this master plan. And I think that it would be a good idea to add that going forward, as they do represent quite a bit of tourism. Camp Maryland's down on the water at St. George Island and provides campsites and cottages. My campground, Take It Easy, we have 280 sites. La Grande, Seaside, there's quite a few campgrounds in the area, and marinas as well. Dennis Point Marina and Campground, that provides quite a bit of seasonal activities and tourism.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think all those should be included in the tourism plan, and we should have a list of those, that people go to.
And I noticed as I was reading through the events, sporting events and things, one thing that may be missing is concerts. I noticed that there's concerts venues in Calvert, a couple of them anyway, and they've been fairly successful. It may be worth looking into for our county.
Well, yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Chris, is that something that it seems like the current county commissioners or even planning commission would be amenable to? I know that there's no real venue or spot in the county that jumps out in my mind as, oh, this would be the perfect spot to build something like what St. Leonard Volunteer Fire Department has, or even what the Marine Museum has.
In terms of concert venues, I don't know that they've really discussed it. I know there have been events like at the Hollywood Fire Department. There's been some events there. And of course, the fairgrounds, seems like they have more events there that are music oriented, things that are loud.
And then Chris,
They used to have the,
I was going to add that Lexington Manor or the Flat Tops is going to have an amphitheater where you can have concerts and events and shows and things like that.
that's true.
Yeah, so that
That's
is
not
currently
gonna
being
be
worked
scaled.
on.
Right. A little smaller scale, but that's true. They used to have the Bluegrass Festival over at the Goddard property. I think that doesn't happen anymore. But in terms of a large scale venue, I've not heard of that. Anybody proposing that?
I know Take It Easy was a concert venue, and when my grandfather built the campground, and Eagles and quite a few big name country bands and bluegrass bands came, and the stage is still there with the same amount of space and parking availability, so it could be an option down the road.
St. Mary's stock.
Yeah, right. It used to be.
Yeah. So, Chris, just a question. So, I like to do mountain biking, trail riding, things like that. Is there any kind of coherent bicycle trail, off-road kind of venue available?
Just around the lake, St. Mary's Lake.
Yeah,
If
that's
people
pretty
go around-
sporty. Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
sporty for most people.
Yeah, that's the only one I know of. There was some talk of possibly building one. There's a piece of land down partially in the Acus that a developer has. There was some discussion about building off-road, a trail bike venue there, but that didn't really take hold. But now I think there are a lot of places if you want to do mountain biking. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great place that we should have mountain biking. But the only mountain biking group I know of just goes around St. Mary's Lake. There is a group. I forget what it's called, SOMD something.
I'm just kind of thinking from people who are sports oriented. They might want to go out in the water, do kind of cool things there. They may even want to camp somewhere, whatever. But, to mix it up, the mountain biking thing's kind of a nice idea. And there may be a way to use it to preserve land. If you kind of, how can we leverage the trails around the land we want to preserve? It's
right.
Number one, beautiful. I mean, I go up to Mount Vernon all the time and use their bike trails. It's absolutely outstanding. Right next to the Potomac, and just great.
Yeah, I think, Barbara can speak to this, but we're definitely trying to entice cyclists down here because we know they can come down here and there's beautiful roads to ride on, and they'll bring their tourist dollars and hang out here if we do it right. And down the road, if we had mountain bikers come down too, and a lot of people who do road bikes also like to do a little mountain biking. So if we had a venue for that, I'm sure Barbara would be very happy with that. The more assets we have, the more people we can bring down, right?
All right. So we brought some few people to, share updates with you guys today. So we're going to go ahead and get started with that. Donna Sasser will get started, and then Steve, I'll let you go after Donna, and then we'll go from there. So let me share a document that Donna would like you all to see. So Donna, you can take it away.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
And just as an intro, Donna is our manager, our Ag and Seafood Division. And Donna's been there for how many years, Donna?
30 plus.
Donna?
Did that come through?
Can you hear Donna?
Many years.
Can you hear Donna?
No, we can't hear.
Donna, try
I
again.
lost your,
I said over 30
I
years.
lost your,
How many years?
Over 30 years?
Over 30 years. So there is not a piece of land in St. Mary's County that Donna doesn't know who farms it. She knows many, many people. She has a trusted relationship with the Amish and Mennonite. And Donna just has great ideas and she just gets things done in St. Mary's County. So we're very lucky to have her on our staff. So
I lost that document, Destiny, that you had put up
Give me
there
1 second to get it back
Donna.
up. There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. I went back through today and reviewed the section, the Chapter 2, Agriculture in St. Mary's County that you all were asked to review, so that I could see where we were starting from today. And I realized that a great deal of the beginning of the chapter dealt with statistics and the ag census and where we are in St. Mary's County. So it started to do like going through individually and updating the numbers, and then lo and behold, what's out already is what's up on your screen is the 2017 Census of Agriculture County profile. So you can kind of see from, at least on this two-pager, because it's a front and back, but two-page sheet, from a lot of the numbers that you had in the original document, the changes from 2012 to 2017. So we are down 3% in the number of farms, but one of the things that you'll see is like farms that were 1 to 9 acres are up by 35%. So just, again, our farm dynamics and land is shifting. One of the things that I want to say is that the ag census is a picture in time, and it tries to give us an idea of where we are in agriculture. We don't have a lot of data that's collected on a regular, if somebody says, well, what's the value of X, Y, and Z? We always refer to the census because there are not other measures out there. Destiny's always looking for facts and figures, and we struggle because we don't have them out there as other business sectors do to give to her. But if you look at this Census of Agriculture County profile, and I think, Destiny, if you flip over to the back page, I just want to give this as an example. It says on here, if we look at chickens, that there are 7,013 chickens layers in St. Mary's County. And what I'm trying to say to you is that I take all of these numbers with a grain of salt because they do not at all, in my mind, represent what we're truly doing in agriculture in St. Mary's County. We have one Amish farm that has 5,000 layers, 5,000 laying hens on that farm alone. So to say that there's only 7,000 chickens in St. Mary's County laying eggs just tells you that this is way off basis. When we look at broiler and other meat type chickens, I would almost guess that with the ethnic community that we have that comes to St. Mary's County every weekend, in particular in our Amish community, they probably process 14,000 birds every weekend on a regular basis. So again, I just want to point that out, that these are numbers. It's a point in time. It's the best at USDA. It's based on people sending in data and information. But there's just things, as I said, I can just point out. If we've got one farm that has 5,000 chickens, really, we only have 2,000 other chickens being raised in the whole county, just as an example. On this also, it says percent of farms that sell directly to consumers, only 17%. Again, when I look at those kinds of numbers, I think about, well, we have, X amount of vendors, 17 vendors at the California Farmers Market type thing. Now, I know that's a percentage, but I think that number is off. And there are 2 certified farms in St. Mary's County that are certified. As Phil mentioned, there are other farms that follow organic practices, but because they're not certified, cannot be called certified organic. So we'll go back to some of the questions and things that I heard. There is a big disparity in some of these numbers, and again, I don't feel that they're truly accurate. We have a very unique agriculture community in St. Mary's County because it's not only traditional farmers that you think of, but the Amish and Mennonite community as well. So sometimes I don't think a lot of their numbers are picked up into this. Currently, we have 3 county-sponsored farmers markets that, at the one at the library, as Phil mentioned, that we're looking to move over to the new facility that the county's building on Thompson's Corner Road. Just on a voluntary basis, they estimate their sales at close to $1 million a year. And I'm going to call that pre-COVID numbers that we collect from them each year. We didn't collect any of the data from all of the farmers markets last year because of COVID. And following into that, one of the recommendations on the list talked about utilizing technology. Try to get to that page of the recommendations here. Recommendation to use digital technology to expand the market for agricultural products and seafood. COVID was, for a lot of farmers, learn by fire of using technology. Many farmers switched over to making sure that as part of their sales outlets, they used credit cards. And credit card sales probably ended up becoming half of their sales at farmers markets. We did have one of the organic farms went to a pre-ordering system very much like which is described in this delivery system. And it's a lot of work to put together these digital markets, pre-package and prepare for people for pickup. So as things opened up more this year, Sassafras Creek, the organic farm, went back to the farmers market and did away with their online subscription service. So there is a niche for this type of local online grocery store, but I believe that it's what people enjoy about a farmer's market is the personal interaction and choice of purchasing. Go back here. So I guess I want to start and ask if there's some questions about the data, if there's anything I'm missing, because it's kind of like you have it there in front of you, you have the Census of Agriculture, so you can kind of see, compare the numbers. So we could talk about that for a minute, and then we could get into, I can tell you about ag preservation, I can tell you about the things that we've done, the efforts with the Navy, issues that we're trying to work through with seafood, and our marketing, to hit on those recommendations that there were in the past. Was there any questions about the data in particular?
If you have any questions, you can come off mute.
What's your sense of the balance of it all? I mean, you're intimately familiar with it. Do you have any thoughts about maybe what the balance should be versus what it is for some reasons?
No. Dale, were you speaking?
Yeah, you couldn't hear me?
I can hear you now. That's interesting.
No, I was just asking about the balance of all things. You're looking at a lot of numbers. You don't really have a good, deep sense of it. But, do you believe that I'll call it the portfolio of all the elements, do you think it's in the right balance? If you were king or queen for a day, is that what you would want it to look like? Just curious.
If I were queen for the day, So let me try to put things in the Queen of the Day's perspective, okay? Which will lead us into our thoughts, I think, for the future. Certainly, we need grain farmers, because we need grain farmers because of the large, if we have 60,000 acres, I'll use that number, but you need a base of land. You need commodity farmers to grow and keep crops on that land. There is definitely a need for commodity farmers. In the past, we have relied very heavily. Those farmers, the grain a lot of times goes to Purdue. But again, in the Queen for the Day scenario, what I think we're trying to build with the retail outlets that we're establishing in St. Mary's County is from the ground up helping all sectors of agriculture, and utilizing a retail component to bring forward. So yes, a lot of grain goes over to the Eastern Shore, but as we develop our local retail markets, there is more grain continually taken to our local grain Amish Mennonite feed stores and being processed for those farmers who are buying grain for the local livestock here in Southern Maryland. As we get more horses in the community, again, more of the hayland, a lot of that is totally being sold locally at some premium prices. So grain is the basis. You have to have grain to cover the large acreages of land. But as Queen for the Day, I think to encourage our farmers, whether they may not want to be the salesperson, but to continue to raise crops, livestock, produce, so that they are sold more on a retail local basis, rather than just in the traditional commodity market. And I believe we are getting there. We have put programs in place using myself, the County Economic Development, Southern Maryland Ag Development Commission over the years to help farmers to do that. Mr. Barr, you had sent me an email a while ago about how are we doing with the value added and the on-farm food processors and the, I'm losing the name of it, the cottage food industry. We have to go back many years, but for the on-farm food processors legislation, that the price of that permit for farmers is $30. So for $30 a year, as a livestock farmer, I can take my livestock now to a USDA facility, have it processed, cut up into individual cuts of meat, brought back, put in a freezer at home, and sell direct. The health department comes out and inspects once a year. Through efforts at the county level, through SMATIC, that legislation, $30 a year, is in legislation, it's in place. There are others that have helped on the cottage food level to expand the amount of products that can be made, value-added products on a cottage food level that then can also be distributed. Actually, cottage foods that could be sold in our local grocery stores, at a local restaurant, that kind of thing. We thought we'd made some great strides with that. We did try a few years ago to get that $25,000 limit raised up to the $40,000 that the on-farm food processors are. And I'll just say the legislation for that year in 2020 didn't go anywhere. 2019 didn't go anywhere. That didn't happen. They did expand some of the different types of cottage foods that can be produced in a home kitchen. And one step forward, two steps backward over the winter, as a lot of the health department regulators were working at home. They came out with a list of cottage food items products that they took off of the list. and have made it more difficult for farmers to raise. But we don't give up. We keep pushing at those things. So going back to being queen for the day, if we can look at our strategy that we've had in the county of having 3 central markets. One of the newest ones, as I said, it's not new, one of our older ones has been the farmers market at the Charlotte Hall Library. I'm telling you, it's about $1 million a year now. But the county's put significant investment into what we're calling the barns at Newmarket. We hope to invite you all to a ribbon cutting soon. But what you'll see is a outdoor seasonal market that has 14 spaces in it for produce farmers, fruits and vegetables, landscape, cut flowers, all of your seasonal agricultural products. And then at that market as well is a value-added building that we want to focus, again, meat, local livestock to be sold through that market. One of the ways that I'm looking at doing that is to have a meat cooperative to keep those freezer cases full. So again, you may not be the person who wants to sell up at that market, but you can participate in the co-op, and you could have your beef, pork, whatever sold through the market itself. I believe that market is going to be just a gold star gem for St. Mary's County that's going to highlight our agricultural, what can be produced in our agriculture community, as well as a tourist site that we will continue to pull people from not just the Southern Maryland counties, but DC and Virginia. The market at the library already pulls in little bus loads of senior citizens from Prince George's County. I expect once we have a facility where we can actually hopefully serve them lunch as well, that it will even be more buses of people who will come to visit. Hope to not just have, think of the traditional farmers market, but hopefully when you come for the ribbon cutting, it's going to kick off a holiday market at the new market. So if you want to buy fresh wreaths, center arrangements, Amish quilts, anything that's made in our agriculture community or with agricultural products, that you at least will get a flavor of that through the holiday market. Jams, jellies, we're working with hopefully the alcohol producers of St. Mary's County so that they will have a spot in that market as well. So the potential is unlimited. And again, are these numbers, proportions, where I want them to be? No. And I think in the future, where it says sells directly to consumers, maybe that 17%, in some way or another, even if you're a grain farmer, you're going to be part of this selling directly to consumers. Let's wrap it up? Okay. So I should kick it to Steve now.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Don, please continue.
Hey,
Okay.
Steve.
I did have 2 questions kind of wrapped into one. Primarily, Donna, what do you see is the current realistic profitability for the majority of farms in the county? What do you see as the long-term profitability? And in your experience, as you've spoken to farmers and gone around to the various farms, what has the landscape looked like, in your opinion, when it comes to the next generation of farmers and sustaining that viability of agriculture in the county?
Okay, so let me get the last question. You said with young farmers? Mm-hmm. What does that look like? I think, again, in comparison to the rest of Southern Maryland, We do have an active young farmers group in St. Mary's County that's just been reestablished, that are getting much more involved. And even again with the census, our numbers may not show it, but again, among our Amish and Mennonite community, a totally different sector, there is a young agricultural workforce. Maybe small, not what we're used to, but they're still within the county at a higher number than the other Southern Maryland counties. Again, I think through trying to sell on a more retail basis rather than wholesale commodity prices, there are real opportunities in St. Mary's County for young farmers.
Good.
What I will say is that people that work on the base, I think you all can acknowledge, make a lot of money. And they, at least at the local farmers market, the homegrown market, they seem to be very willing to share and support local farmers. Okay? So that was your one question. And your first one?
Don, I have a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. They want me to kick it to Steve first, Phil, and then we can come back
okay,
and answer
sure,
questions, because they want us to be done at 5:30.
Oh, my.
Okay.
Donna, I'm going to thank you. I have very little to say. I think you did a fine job. The only question that I'm saying, and Donna mentioned by the way, is my sound okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The only thing that I'm looking at, and Donna had mentioned, the grain farmers. If we're going to have a future for agriculture, we're looking at infrastructure. And we're talking about, you're going to go with electronics, you're going to go with internet. The internet in the RPD is lacking. It needs to be built out. And I don't personally like the idea of outsourcing it to some corporation from New Jersey or New York. I would either like to see the county take charge of the cable up and down the roads and charge a fee to the open market and let the advertisers use it to regain the money, or have SMECO do it and let them charge for it, since they own the right-of-ways and all the poles anyway. In order for the farmers to be able to communicate, they need to have good, solid broadband internet in broadband communication. The only other suggestion that I would make, and I was at a Farm Bureau meeting, and one of the board members made a suggestion about the best thing they could do for a grain farmer is, since Purdue's already operating, is going to stay in Lothian for a while, it would be a great function to see if they could have a transfer station for poultry litter, so that the producers or the poultry farmers on the East Coast or on the Eastern Shore could haul the poultry litter over, deposit the poultry litter, and then go over to the Lothian granary, pick up the corn, and haul it back over to either Purdue or Tyson or whoever is over there, feeding chickens. This is a way of trying to take a large-scale problem and breaking it up so that smaller farmers can haul their own poultry litter and spread their own poultry litter, and we'd have organic fertilizer. That's the suggestion I heard, and that's the suggestion I have. Other than that, Donna, you're perfect. So, and I thank you for your time.
All right, I have a question now. I have two questions. So, number one, under Jamie's last recommendation, he recommended that we try to utilize barging grain throughout the system and using our waterways and channelways to do that. Now, has anyone from EDC ever done anything with that suggestion since that was made under our last University of Maryland study? And I would guess that the answer would be no, because otherwise we would have heard about it. But for instance, down at Abel's Wharf with Vulcan, that would be a good opportunity to ship that grain. And I'm looking for Steve and Donna, because you all, that's your bag, you know that stuff. But I do have a second question. I'm going to hold off.
Okay, so Phil, yes, there has, even before this report was written, there has been a lot of work to try to bring a barge to St. Mary's County, Southern Maryland. When Buddy Hance was the Secretary of Agriculture, he pushed Purdue very hard, brought them down and looked at these various sites in St. Mary's County, and they did not find it feasible. I think a reality check for a lot of us was that here people like the idea of using a barge to ship grain, and Purdue doesn't even find it feasible to keep a grain facility in Lothian open. And it's been a struggle and a lot of push from Secretary Bartenfelter for them to make a commitment to keep that Lothian grain elevator open. So again, I mean, it has been looked at, it's been pushed very hard at times, and I guess we kind of joke about it, we need an Uber barge, maybe. Who's willing to run it, and where would it go? And we just have not, again, at the time, Secretary Hance tried very hard and just could not get Purdue to see where the economics could work. And now that the economics don't even work for Purdue per se to be at Lothian in southern Anne Arundel County, that again makes me want to go back and push harder to develop our own markets for grain locally.
Well, that's a good answer. Number two, Dale Moore had brought up previously the fact that some alternative crops that have taken root. I know in Frederick County, they work with the University of Maryland to grow hemp. Has anyone in the EDC explored the opportunity, because you have to partner with an educational institution? Has anyone approached the University of Maryland when they're coming down here in their ag department in conjunction with that idea?
I know I have spoken to Ben Beal before in regards to hemp, and I don't believe that he has a local partner here in St. Mary's County at this time for hemp. There was some interest, I think, with Charles Mattingly, but they weren't part of the University of Maryland research, as you said, partnership on that. In regards to alternative crops, I think what we all have come to the conclusion with in Southern Maryland is that there is no magic bullet that's going to replace tobacco. The best that we can do is to look at a lot of these little different pieces, and whether it's some farmers have looked now, again in the Amish and Mennonite community, looked at fruits and vegetables. You have some folks that have looked at the grape industry, so therefore there's the Leonardtown Winery and Co-op. Again, as you said, hemp is something that's on the horizon perhaps in the future. So I don't foresee that tobacco is ever going to be replaced with a single crop. It's going to be a variety of different commodities to try to make the difference of what tobacco had.
So I'm thinking in terms of, having a portfolio of crops, aquaculture, et cetera. It kind of creates a regional branding of sorts, something that is attractive to people to come down here to buy these meats, fruits, vegetables, whatever. But some way of kind of some coherence to the messaging and the availability. If there was an awesome Napa Valley winery kind of capability, that'd be great. But something that's kind of distinctive that would set the region apart would really attract folks, I think.
I've struggled with that over the years. I think a lot of you probably have traveled, and you say, I'm in St. Mary's County, and they're like, oh, is that on the Eastern Shore? So I understand, and, over the years through Southern Maryland Ag Development Commission, we've tried to brand Southern Maryland as a whole. When you're I'm going to say a peninsula as we are, I struggle with what kind of identity could we really give ourselves that would hit the map like a Vidalia Onion or Napa Valley. So I guess I'm always open for that, but I just think that, are we too small of an area to brand ourselves in the agricultural field? And it's just a question back to you, per se. And I think we're at the end of the time.
I think the Oyster Festival, the Crab Festival and all that that's a regional thing that people come from out of town to come. I think that kind of thing is very powerful, and the reputation spreads.
Well, and Dale, the other thing you have to remember is that the type of crops that are best grown down here is dependent on climate, it's dependent on microclimate, it's dependent on soil type, the level of nutrients in the soil. So whatever the current selection or current predominance of what is being grown down here is a direct result of that. It's whatever is most profitable among that selection that fits those circumstances.
So I think on that note, thank you so much, Donna, and thank you, Steve. That's a perfect pivot to tourism. So Barbara's going to pick it up here from the Executive Director of Visit St. Mary's. And Barbara, I will pop up your slides.
Okay, you can pause for a second. I think you guys are getting this great sort of bookend experience because Donna clearly is an expert and she's got 30 years of experience. I've been here for less than 6 months in the job and in the county. So we've got two very interesting perspectives, but I think a lot of what's been mentioned about farms and about distinction, I'm so glad that word was actually used. I think in tourism, that's exactly where our opportunities lie, because bigger is not always better. The places that are struggling as we go through this pandemic and we change the way that we travel are the big places. And we're this nice little great place where you can spread out. 6 feet is no problem down here, from what I can tell. So I wanted to say that I'm still in the learning phase. So I may not have a lot of answers, but I wanted to start by sharing some slides just to give an introduction again to what our organization is and what we're doing. I'm very open to feedback. I see a lot of familiar faces and names, a few familiar faces and names, I should say, in this group. I'm really looking forward to getting to know the other ones. But I'm going to roll through this really quickly because I know we have a time constraint, and I think you all read that rather robust tourism master plan, and some of this comes straight out of there. So I'll just make the little ding sound like we're watching a book from our olden days. You can turn the page, Destiny. So what I'm going to do here is just give you a bit of an overview of our plan and the progress that we've made in the last 6 months. So first of all, just to remind everyone, we are an independent 501c6 organization, and we have a mission, and our mission is to serve the community and economy of St. Mary's County by designing, developing, and supporting tourism assets, and by attracting overnight visitors for the economic benefit of the county. That is the measurement of our success, is overnight visitors. And our vision is for us to be a premier weekend destination for the Mid-Atlantic region and a most attractive tourism destination in the capital region. This is where the distinction comes in, because we don't need to absolutely, go up against what already exists. We have the opportunity to create something that doesn't exist yet. We are a nationally renowned heritage and historic brand. That's going to push us into the forefront in the next few years, thanks to what's going on down at Historic St. Mary's City, which is, I think, the most exciting thing happening on the East Coast right now as far as historic tourism goes. And we want to make sure that we also can complement the tourism experience with some modern tourism attractions. And a modern tourism attraction is not a giant 20-story, high-rise on the beach. It has a lot to do with ecotourism. It has a lot to do with getting into an environment that is different than your environment. And when you think about that from the drive market, which is what we are trying to attract here, we have exactly what the people who are in those urban environments would be seeking if they're looking for a change of pace. So we, to finish that vision, our organization seeks to engage the community in developing a local culture that complements St. Mary's County and welcomes visitors. We don't want to run over anything that's going here. We don't want to change this vibrant community as it stands today. We only want to enhance it. Bing, turn the page. So here's what I've been doing since I got here. I've been trying to get around to everyone to introduce myself, state and county, local, government, lodging providers, restaurant owners, museum and historic site executives, event venues, activity providers, and business owners. If I haven't gotten around to you yet, it's only because I'm really trying not to get in the way. When I got here, everything was reopening. People are facing a lot of challenges around restaffing, and we have some challenges around our current lodging. So, first meeting that I sat in here, the person down from from the state park said to me, "Please don't advertise us. We can't handle any more visitors." So I've been trying to help out where I can. And make sure that people understand that we are very uniquely positioned to help with product development, to help with sales and marketing support, to help with regulatory support, and to help with capital investment. I'm trying to take on a position of listening and learning. And believe me, I feel like I'm earning a master's degree in history and now in agriculture and farming. So I'm trying to soak it all in. I'm trying to make sure I'm setting expectations and connecting with this community. You can turn the page. So this is what our plan is. We want to first and foremost make our website the hub of tourism related information. The travelers that we are trying to attract are digital natives, are millennials from urban environments, and we need to make sure that we're presenting that and not expecting every attraction to spend their, hard-earned capital and resources on presenting each of them as individuals. So we would like to establish ourselves as this hub of information. By doing that, we're going to revitalize our social media so that we can attract and engage visitors. We're spending a lot of time trying to optimize, analyze, and share our visitor data eventually, once we have some good data to share. We're going to be creating and distributing enticing content and collateral, and in new ways, because we're going to be very environmentally focused. So I'm not talking about a dozen or so more rack cards. I'm talking about digital product that will help people to get around this county and discover what's going on without, impacting our environment and our experiences. We're going to engage our partners in some strategic planning. The people down here know what is going on and what people want, and we're just here to help facilitate to, make that happen. And last but not least, we're going to try to provide some educational opportunities for our partners so that they can have some marketing best practices and they can really optimize the efforts that they're making to connect with the tourism community. Ding, turn the page. So this is directly out of the plan. The top 9 of them are, and I added one more. And these are the highlighted areas seen as opportunities from the master plan. That's lodging, dining, water access and activities. And I think at the beginning, somebody mentioned that we didn't have marinas and campgrounds in this plan. I've always thought that the marinas and the campgrounds fall exactly into water access and activities as well as outdoor activities. So I'm thinking about you guys all the time. I love camping. So we're going to, try to make sure we're including all of those opportunities. Leonardtown, very important key to success for the tourist economy here. South County is also a really huge opportunity for us. Museums and historic sites, events, and whoever it was that mentioned concerts, that falls purely under events. And I love the idea of whatever it is, St. Mary's County Music Fest. And I'm, chomping at the bit for that park to open up. That's going to be in Lexington Park, because that stage area and that performance space is amazing. And it will create a lot of opportunities for us. Agritourism and farm to table. This is key to the conversation that we've been having thus far in this meeting. And I think there's a lot of great opportunities there, and we can do some real creative things there that haven't been done before in this area. Outdoor activities. And of course, the thing that I added was community, because what we don't want to do is establish tourism at the risk or the disservice to the existing community. That's very important. You can turn the page. So in closing, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew who we were. I'm the executive director of the organization. I have a staff of 2 as of Monday. Mary Wagner, who is local, and she does our communications, and she's our marketing communications assistant. And we have a new member to our team, Catherine Herbert, who is our operations coordinator. She comes to us from Charles County, and she has vast experience in a lot of the things that we're trying to do here. So she's a great addition to our team. Our board of directors is listed here too, because I'm assuming many of you already know a lot of these people. Regina Fadden, Kim Oz, Nancy Easterling. I believe Phil Langley is a part of this group. Scott Sanders from Tobacco Barn, Michelle McKay from Leonardtown, Jim Grube from Woodlawn and Jubilee, and Chris Caslemas, who's also on the call. So that's the team that is working on growing and building the tourism assets in this community. And you can page. And last but not least, it's just a thank you. And there is my contact information, which I encourage you all. We will share it afterwards. Please, if I haven't gotten around to meet you, come and, contact me, invite me to see your place. I will, every time I'm invited, I show up, whether you want me to or not. and I'm still in the learning phase, but I'd appreciate any of the support or help that I can get. So that's the presentation. I heard a few of the questions. I could pause here, or I can address some of the questions that I heard at the beginning. I'll address a couple of the things that I heard. I heard somebody mention that it's challenging to think of how it would be sustainable to own a farm. And I want to point you guys into the thinking of agritourism, because those side hustles happening on farmland help to preserve that farmland. And I think we would all agree we would rather see that than, more housing or any of the other things. It's part of the really beautiful distinctions of this area. And anybody that's grown up in Maryland knows what has happened to the other farmlands, and we don't want to see that happen here. So this is a great distinction for us. So we can help by developing agritourism. We can help to sustain those small farms and to preserve that farmland. And a few people mentioned distinction and mentioned green. And I have felt from the beginning that is our big opportunity. There is a movement around eco-villages and eco-tourism happening throughout this country, but it is small. And we have a real opportunity to get on board with that. And you can imagine then we could have people coming here and staying in the places where we currently think you can't stay because of restrictions. You could be staying there if we get into innovative technologies that are supportive of land preservation and also supportive of conservation and visitors. You really don't grow anybody as a conservationalist from a classroom in a city. You really grow them by taking them into the woods, taking them onto the farms, and doing those things. There's something going on down here already that's getting started that's called Walk the Farm. And this is one of the things that I think is a super innovative way to think about using a farm, which is developing some walking paths on your farm and inviting the public to walk on your land. The movement right now coming out of this pandemic that I hope we're coming out of is that people want to be outside, and those people that have discovered the great outdoors for the first time, the trends are showing that they're staying outside. So those are the people we want to target. We want to get them on their bicycles, on our beautiful wide roads. We want to make sure we're getting them on our farmland. We want to get them on our water. And, and we have all of the assets that you need for great ecotourism down here. I think I got everything. I took a lot of crazy notes, but in closing, I guess I see the job as just trying to connect the dots of what's here to create that full tourism experience. There's a lot of great day trips down here, but you can imagine, what a full experience for a weekend or a week could look like, including that farmers market can't wait for that farmer's market to open. And you could think, hey, what about if you have a group come in and shop the farmer's market, and then they're taken somewhere where they can cook that food or learn from a chef how to cook that food or have a great meal from the food that they just bought, and tying those pieces together, getting our local restaurants that exist to be expressing to people, this food that you're eating came from up the road. This cheese came from the Amish. This corn came from right over there, and that farm and this farm. And tying those pieces together, that is the top dollar experience that people in urban environments are looking for. So I've kind of gone all over the place. I'm going to open it up to questions. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I am from the city, you can tell.
Thank you, Barbara.
My name's Curtis.
Look ahead, Curtis.
Curtis, I'm new to this meeting. It's nice to meet you, and I enjoyed what everybody had to contribute so far and your presentation. An idea that came to mind, I saw it on a travel channel one time. I think it's Anthony Bourdain. And there was a farmers market concept with restaurants that were right behind it or right co-located, where they would source their food daily from that place. And it was just kind of like a neat culture, a nice little ecosystem there. I don't know if it's possible to somehow put an initiative in place that incentivize or encourage small businesses, entrepreneurs in the restaurant business to partner with these sorts of venues, maybe do something like that, because that would be pretty exciting, and I know I would go to it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that idea. And those are some of the dots that we want to try to connect, absolutely, is to make sure that the people that are cooking here are also buying. This plays into kind of what Donna was talking about, having the retail space so that you're eating the food that is grown here and it's not just getting shipped up north in a wholesale capacity.
Said you were from the city, and we talked a little bit about the kind of the lack of overnight stay locations. Have we taken a look at like Airbnb? We have all these single family homes all over the place. It's just not a norm down here, I don't think, but it might open up the spaces and make some money for some folks.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I think that is a bigger part of the economy than any of us understand. And we've been working with economic development to try to figure out how we can bring those people together, offer them some opportunity, and also make sure that they are listed properly, paying their taxes properly. When I first got here, just to give you guys some context, I sat on a call with a company called AirDNA that was trying to sell us some information about what we call private accommodations or short-term accommodations. Those are what those Airbnbs, VRBOs are. On the report that I saw, which was run in May, there were 150 of these places in our county already. And they are only counting the ones that are available at that time. So if that was May, you can imagine what June, July, and August looked like. I think the issue there is that those rentals are happening right now. Most of them, I think, are in South County along the water. And I think that people are getting there, and because these pieces aren't connected, they are not leaving. And so you bring your stuff with you, you bring your kids, they can be outside playing on that waterfront. You can be day drinking by 11, and you have no incentive to go out. So some of the things we want to help to establish are weekly passes to all the museums, so that you don't just think about going to a museum when it rains. You think about having this, think about being a mom and having that in your pocket as an alternate thing to do when, the day everybody's got their sunburns or whatever it is. Those sorts of things. And also just trying to provide, one of the other things I really want to explore is providing a transportation structure so that those folks in South County, I don't know how you guys feel about how far away that is, but if you're driving from Washington, D.C., those last hour that you're in the car coming through this county, you feel like you've gone into, very, very far away. Convincing you to come back up to Leonardtown to experience everything that they have here, putting you back in your car, that may not be our best strategy. And so I'd like to explore the idea of having a transportation network that is supportive of tourism, where maybe it's a Wednesday, they can get on a trolley that can bring them up to Leonardtown. This is also going to help with the folks in the wineries, because we certainly, if we don't want people driving around their cars and clogging up our already, sort of work streets. We certainly don't want them getting in their cars after they've done a tasting at Tobacco Barn Distillery and had, a couple glasses of wine at Port of Leonardtown. So those are some of the solutions that we're going to explore to try to make sure we're connecting those existing short-term rentals with our existing assets that experience. So they're not just sitting on the beach and enjoying the view.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you guys are making this easy.
So no one's talking, so I'll go ahead. So it'd be interesting to kind of journey map, right? So if someone's coming down from DC, for example, right? What are the different paths and connections? 5 or 6 different scenarios of what they might decide to do, just to kind of give them the ideas of where to go and just make it easy, lay it out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we want them spending that money in this county. So we want to be able to say on your way in, here's where you can get your groceries. This is one of the challenges in South County, as you guys must know, is that you can't go out of one of those places. It's hard to even find where the farm stands are if you're not native here. But to go to a grocery store, that's another great haul. You just got here, you just unpacked everything, and there's this beautiful view of the water right there. Nobody wants to go out and get their groceries. And so we want to encourage those people that we know are here to get out and spend the money here. And so exactly what you're saying, Dale, we'd like to be able to say, on your way, you can stop at some of our smaller museums. You should definitely stop in the old jailhouse and see what's going on there. I would say that one of the challenges, as you mentioned that with the paths, is that, because I'm new, I've got these sort of fresh eyes. I mean, I'm old, but I'm new. So I've got these fresh eyes on things. And I'm trying to encourage everybody to sort of look at the experience through fresh eyes. It is hard. I'm just going to be very direct here. It is hard for a new person to understand whether this place is coming or going, because we have a lot of properties that are abandoned. We have a lot of properties that are not, that you may not feel are welcoming. I found out recently that I was in Cook's, and everybody in the line there was so helpful and so kind, and they were all talking about how the soft serve ice cream in there is the best. I'm not certain that somebody that doesn't know what is inside that place would feel compelled to stop at that place. And no offense, I certainly hope the owner of that place is not on this call. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to be very, sort of direct. So one of the challenges is that we are going to have to help our local businesses to present themselves as a place of discovery to the new visitor. And, so that they're not all just these hidden gems that we know about, right? Or you guys know about, I'm learning.
I don't think we've really taken advantage of Southern Maryland ham either, right? I mean, that's a specialty here. It's super, super good, but hardly anyone even knows about it. So I just, you got the crabs, you got the oysters, you got the ham. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that we're currently promoting, if you know that they have Waterman Heritage Tours, this is something that we're putting a lot of energy behind, because that's an opportunity to go out and learn how that food is harvested. And then you can come back and eat that food, making those full circle connections of the food. We're talking about dining and docking when you're talking about the marinas too. That's another great opportunity that we've just got to get people to understand what is here. That is our biggest challenge right now. And that's what we're facing head on by trying to create those assets and that collateral that I spoke about, is to try to make sure that we've informed people. There's a lot of great stuff here. Now, full disclosure, I'm a vegetarian, but everywhere I go, people talk about those stuffed ham egg rolls. I think that might be the biggest thing that's going on down here around ham. If you haven't tried them, I'm sure you all have if you're meat eaters. So these are the things. I recently actually got interviewed got asked for some information for an article on stuffed ham. So maybe we're going to get some attention around the ham issue. And I understand the question around that is cabbage or kale?
Kale.
Okay, yeah. There you go.
So one thing that did occur to me from reading through the master plan, within the last few years, what has been done done, what, meaningful steps have been taken towards streamlining the business processes and, the permit processes, all that sort of stuff for new businesses coming in, for B&Bs, for really anything that falls under the tourism umbrella. I know that had been one significant obstacle to more opportunities setting up.
Yeah, maybe I can.
I see Chris leaning in. I'm hoping you're going to take that one, Chris.
Right. So through our department, we did hire a consultant, a national consultant, Paul Zucker, and his company came in and reviewed our whole development review process, gave us, I think, 180 recommendations or something. So we did follow through on a lot of those. But more specifically, in our department, we have somebody, Casey Guidry, who's a development facilitator, and her title is exactly what she does. She helps developments. So, for example, you guys probably all know about Pier 450 in Peggy Benzel. It's a fantastic location. She has a little lodge there and just to hang out in the water, and she has great food. But in order for her to revitalize that property, it really took a lot of work and a lot of effort on our part and other people too. I'm not trying to take credit for it completely, but she had to get some state law. We had to change some regulations. We have a couple of regulations. We had to go to the state blah 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 board and this board and all these things. So we do have this person on board, and we all get involved as we can to help projects. And we know there are challenges, especially in South County, where there sometimes isn't. Most times there's not sewer. Septic can be a challenge, and just if you're in the water, you're in the critical area. So we do all that we can, and we make sure that our land use and growth management department alerts us if there's any tourism-related project moving forward. So Barbara can be on board, and we can be on board and advocate for those, and just help to smooth the path out. We've been recently. We've been to a couple of venues who are trying to get going also. So we do all that we can, and we also do things like we're working on alcohol production on agricultural land. I mean, that's something that's tourist related, and we're working with some folks to streamline that. And we actually are very close to bringing some changes to the commissioners that would really make it easier for alcohol production on an agricultural land. So we're heavily involved in it, case by case basis, but also at a high level, suggesting changes. We also have at a super high level just some more streamlining ideas for our land use and growth management department to make the process overall just go smoother. And I'm sure they don't like it when we're in their business, but our business is helping businesses get started. So we're always in their business saying, here's how we think things can go better. And they may not like it, but we're still going to do it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. All good news.
Yeah, and I would say too, I'm an optimist. I think that there are still challenges, and I think Chris and his team work very hard to help on those challenges. But the good news here is that we now have examples like Pier 450. So a new business person doesn't have to come down here and imagine what is possible. We have full-on examples of successful businesses that showcase what can happen. So I would imagine that can create a bit of a snowball effect. That it wouldn't be as hard to imagine putting something on the water in South County now that Peggy Benzel has, pioneered that space in so many ways.
Yeah, and I don't want to just end by saying that we help and everything goes smoothly, because there are many, many regulations, state, county, otherwise, that make it very difficult and very challenging to get a new business going, especially if you're in South County, especially if you're near the water. It's just very, very difficult. So.
All right. Are there any final questions before the document review team receives their next assignment? All right. We're ready for homework. So our, oh no, I see.
I'm going to sign off because I have another meeting. So thank you all for listening and for taking the time and all the good questions.
Thank you, Barbara.
I look forward to meeting each of you personally.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Was there a question? I saw Dale or Elizabeth came off mute.
Just thumbs up.
Elizabeth, did you have any comments before I go?
No. It's all you.
All right, so our next homework assignment, our next meeting is in another 6 weeks. So let's do chapters 5 and 6, which is, chapter 5 is defense and manufacturing. Chapter 6 is analysis. After that, we'll just have one chapter left. And we will have read the entire sets, so.
And Dale, if you need any help with the defense part, let me know. I'll give you a little tutorial.
I'll be just, I'll be quiet.
I hope not. We need your expertise.
There's a lot of exciting things going on in that space. Really, really are. So.
All right, excellent. Thank you all for your time tonight. Have a good night, and you'll see email from me soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.